Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode. I am Carriece Jefferson, owner and founder of CCJ Enterprises, and I help churches, schools, colleges, universities, and non for profits start and build drama ministries to discover new ways of spreading the gospel through drama performances. Today, video is different from how the titles usually are, and it's quite bold because I just really want to get into this. But before I get into this, a little bit about me. 16 years ago, I wrote a stage play for a church for the very first time. I was 23 years old. It was performed during a youth service after church program, and a couple weeks later, I was in charge of a drama ministry, and that duration was 4.5 years. And in that short window of time, plenty of plays were produced. And outside of church, I've independently produced stage plays, written and directed them with Chicago State here in Chicago, actually at Chicago State here in Chicago. And also, a couple years ago, another stage play was in a staged reading. And also, as well, I have written for two online magazine publications. I had a blog. I self-published a short stories collection, and there's another book that's coming out later this year, and along with other things within the writing arena. So I have been in playwriting for almost 20 years, and I've seen a lot of changes within the industry, both secular and in the Christian space as well. So I want to talk about in this video things that are happening within church plays and how the wheel can stop being reinvented. And before I go further into this video isn't to discount anybody's creativity or calling, because remember, I was in my early 20s when the ministry was thrust upon me, and there was a lot of things I had to learn and figure out. And to be honest with you, I didn't learn some of the things until after the tenure was over in terms of ministry leadership. But that's the reason why I wanted to do this video, is so that you or those that you know that are in charge of drama ministries or just write or produce plays don't fall into the same traps. So in this, here's one of the things. So plays are a great way to share God's message, and it's not because it's something that I'm passionate about or I've been doing, but it's a good way to engage the audience. It allows opportunity to tell a story from different viewpoints. It enables an audience to think things differently from how they might have interpreted or were taught. It also brings a community together, and it also gives people the chance to have a voice when they are writing something that is actually presented in a performance format. So one of the things that I do see in a lot of Christian plays, whether it's through YouTube videos or in person on stage, is that it's, I'm trying to figure out the best way to say this. It's a secular cake with a Christian frosting. It's a secular cake that has a Christian frosting. And I'm talking in terms of, you see a play and there's some of everything going on. It's just real busy. You know, you got the man here cheating on his wife, you got the substance abuse, you got the um, deadbeat father, or you got all these types of issues going on. And somewhere in the end, to wrap it up, someone goes to church or something tragic happens and they go to God. They either go back to God or they accept God as personal Lord and Savior. In the end, the problem with that is in plays, it's supposed to move the story forward and it takes the audience on a journey. So if it has all of these things happening in the play to where, you can't really keep up, and then at the end it's like, okay, we packaged it up and we just going to give it to the audience. Well, that reminds me of a couple productions that I have went to, and this has been in the secular space as well, where there was some of everything going on, and at the end of the play, I was like, what was it about? Now, if I have sat there for 90 minutes or 120 minutes, I shouldn't be asking, what was it about? That's something I should have gotten way before it gets to that point. So that's one thing that's going on in Christian plays. Another thing that's going on, and I know I might sound harsh, but it needs to be said. There's too many plays with cut and paste characters. I cannot tell you how many church plays I have seen with a character that's like Medea, that's like Brown, or someone else. First of all, that's not only is it lazy, but it's lack of imagination. And also, if the play is about Bernice, Bernice needs to sound like Bernice. I don't need Bernice to sound like someone else. And just because one particular format has worked for one person, it doesn't mean that that works for everybody else. What makes plays powerful is that the creativity possibilities are endless. You can draw from your own personal testimonies, your experiences, or you can pose a question to something that's already been done or said and create another angle to give the audience another outlook. When the audience sees a stage play, they should be enlightened. They should be engaged in some type of conversation about what they just saw, because plays are for the ears. Screenwriting is for the eyes. So it's two different types of writing style. And while I'm on these cut and paste characters, another problem in the cut and paste characters, it could be that um, the character is just so, I'm trying to figure out the way to say it. The character is there, but really don't need to be there. I can't tell you how many plays that I have seen that have had so many characters in there, and about half of the cast didn't need to be there. They either had one line, or they were just there to fill up, or to, try to make it. And here's the thing. The rule of thumb, now some people say no more than 4 characters in the play. Some people say no more than 8. I say no more than 6. No more than 6 characters in the play, because the more people that you have, and this is from personal experience, my first one that I had done a full production outside of the church had about 20 some people, and that was just too many people, and it was, ranging from small children to full adults. So that was a lot to keep up with, and plus paying, plus coordinate schedules and rehearsals. So because of that, I learned not to ever do a cast size that big. There was another play that I did that it was about 18 people, and that was just a lot, but it was in six different stories into one. So that was the difference between those two. But you know, I tell anybody, don't have a play that's no more than six characters, and you always want to have at least, so if it's six people, you want to have two understudies, so that way if something happens to one of the characters, you have someone that can slide in, because things happen. So you want to always be proactive in stage plays. So not only is it cut and paste kind of characters, there's also predictable stories and characters, right? And that goes into like the title of your play. So if, well, first of all, let me put this disclaimer: titles don't have to be long, no more than 5 to 7 words. Like if you can get a title in 1 word, that is great. But when this starts to be like very long for a title, you kind of giving away the meat of the story to people before they even have a chance to see what it's about. So the predictable characters and stories is okay. There's different meanings to this. So playwrights are for the ears. So that means when I get up to go to the ladies' room or wherever, and I come back in, without me looking at the stage, I should be able to know who's speaking, because each character is supposed to have its unique voice. A lot of times, plays in churches have characters that almost sound the same except for one or two people. Everybody's supposed to have their unique voice. Now, I don't mean unique voice in terms of diction and lexicon, but I mean, speaking from their point of view, the experience, or the lifestyle, or how they react, or their fears, their challenges, their accomplishments. All of those things embodies character development. So each character is supposed to have its own voice, because if you got 5 people in a play and everybody sounds alike, it's going to fall flat. It's going to lose some interest, and it's going to be very hard for the audience to kind of keep up, because everybody sounds alike. So sometimes when the audience say, "Oh, I thought that was Ben, but that was Andrew," it could be because Ben and Andrew sounded so much alike. The audience was like, "Oh, that's just this person." And predictable stories is okay. So what a predictable storyline is, it's kind of like a storybook. When we were children, we, read Cinderella and all of these stories, right? And with a story, it starts off with an antagonist, right? So sometimes in church plays, you see the same thing. You just have that one character that just start off just like all the way wrong, whether he's abusive, whether he, um, you know, unemployed, it just starts off. And, one of the things in a play is you want to build on, you want to heighten the story. So that goes into, fleshing out the character, in terms of like, okay, we know he has an issue or she may have an issue, but let's build on this. And then when it comes to that climaxing, or things like that. So it's just like the curve that we learned in school. You start off, then it goes to rising action, climax, falling action, and then the denouement, which is French for the end. So it's kind of the same thing. It's just you know the arc is a little bit different because it's performed on stage, in front of a live audience. So once you out there, that's it. So whatever, mistakes or bloopers, that's it. You can't go back and fix that. You just have to go on. And here's the tip too. In play productions, even if it's in church, something is going to always go wrong. But your job is to make sure that the audience doesn't know, unless it's just something that just really couldn't be helped. But if it was someone that was scheduled to be in there and didn't show up, because you may get that, or the person fell sick, or for whatever the reason may be, you might have to do some last minute snips and clips and, kind of reroute the story and, have some lines to say. So, predictable, and so when the predictable characters in the story goes into that title, right? So like if your title is Sam's Addiction, that takes away the whole curiosity of what the play is about, because we know Sam has some type of addiction. Now we might be curious in terms of like, okay, what is his addiction? Now you can kind of play on that, but if you really want to keep audience to be engaged and focused throughout the whole thing, you want to really seriously think about your title. Now, I'm not going to tell you how you should how you should pick a title for your play, because that's for you to decide. That's your creativity, and whatever God gives you is for you. So I'm not going to get in the way of that. But what I will tell you is that make sure that the title that is chosen for the play, it ties into everything regarding the play. Hopefully that made sense. That title should fit into the the story. The story should tie into that. So excuse me. So when you have predictable storylines and predictable characters, you will definitely lose people's attention. Because we are in a time now where attention spans are really short, and if you can't capture people, like this, you just really lose them. And here's another tip too. So in play performances, you really supposed to get some type of reaction out of your audience within that first 30 to 60 seconds. Whether it's a little laugh, or it makes them go or those type of reactions. You supposed to get that within that first 30 to 60 seconds. So think of that opening as kind of like what they call an elevator pitch in the business world. You only got a few minutes to hook people in, and that's it. Really seconds. Sorry, seconds. Few seconds to hook people in. And once you have people to hook in, then you flash out from there. Okay? So the fourth one, lack of engagement. I can't tell you the number of times that I have seen churches have plays and there was no type of engagement. Now, don't get me wrong, it depends on the timing of when the play is going to actually take place, because if it's during service, if it's right before the pastor's sermon, if it's somewhere where it's just really pressed for time, and you have to meet within that time management, then that's altogether different. But if it is something standalone, meaning that this is maybe on a Saturday, or this is on it's on a Sunday, but it's after church, or if it's for on a Friday evening, you want to engage people. And engaging people is not having people to just show up, sit in the audience and say, hey, we had a house full, it was a great turnout, everybody was engaged. No, that's not engaging people. So you want to engage people through, um, let's say you're writing or producing or directing something around millennials and beliefs. Well, you want to have millennials to be part of your audience. Or if you don't have them in your audience and you have an older uh, crowd in your audience, you want to provide them with some type of information around the research in which you have conducted, that's the correlation between millennials and religion. So that poses people to have a conversation and ask some questions. And later on, I will talk about ways in which you can engage people with the performances. You know, it should never stop with the with what is on stage. It should go beyond that. The fifth thing that I see all the time, and this was before I even had a ministry. What I see all the time in church plays or skits is rehashing stuff just over and over and over again. You know, we know Easter story, Jesus rose from the dead. We know the Christmas story. We know, some of those significant stories that are in the Bible. But it doesn't mean it has to be told the same way every Easter and Christmas program. It just don't. Again, it's not to discount the story, because those are important stories, and those do matter. However, it's a different way to tell them. So it could be told from a different person's viewpoint. So for instance, let's say the story of Moses. Instead of telling it from Moses' viewpoint, how about tell it from the Egyptians' viewpoint? Or tell it from the children of Israel's viewpoint? It's the same story, it's just told from different viewpoints. So you don't have to rehash it. Another way you can make that a little bit different is, let's say you are telling the same story, but add something to it, maybe like a praise dance performance in there, and I really don't like to use the word performance all that much, because it's heavily used in the theater space, in the secular world. But for right now, I can't think of any other word to say. But as it comes to me, I will, switch out that particular word. But in terms of to avoid rehashing, you could throw in praise dance, or you can throw in something else to give it, a little, instead of that same play that people saw last year. So, also in terms of redundancy, I see a lot of plays with people just, uh, they may throw a song or two in there in the play, and again, there's different types of plays. You have your musical, you have your comedy, you have your drama. And I think that sometimes we'll just throw in some singing in there. And there's nothing wrong with singing. I have nothing against that. But it does have to make sense. It has to have a flow. It can't just come out of nowhere and be like, oh, okay, yeah, we added something in that. No, you got to think through the story that's being told and how all those moving pieces come together, because in any type of play production, it's always a lot of moving pieces, from the lights to the sounds to the stage hands to the actors, actresses, to the director, to the writer, the producer, the set designer, and it just depends on the size of the production that's being done. So you really want to think about different ways in which you could tell that story, and then the different viewpoints as well. So I'm not going to tell you how to write a play. I mean, I'm just not going to do that. And again, that goes into, trusting God to lead you in that process. But what I will talk about now is areas for improvement. So, how you can avoid having a secular cake with the Christian frosting. You can plan the story. Now, a lot of times we just get into it, right? And this is church, so I'm going to be real honest about that. Sometimes you just put on the spot. You will have someone to call you 2 or 3 weeks before the program asking you to do something. And see, that's another thing churches need to stop doing. And what I mean by that is, again, I'm not bashing it because I'm a Christian, just like you are. But it doesn't mean that I can't keep it real and hold things accountable and call things like I said. If you got a Women's Day program in June and July, don't wait till, June or May asking people to participate. No, you give people in advance notice because people have lives. So if, let's say you are a playwright and you direct and you produce, and someone comes to you asking you to participate in something in June, and the event is either the end of June or the beginning of July, you're not going to have much time. And I mean, I know that God leads people, but the Bible also talks about doing things decently and in order. And putting people on the spot is never decently and in order. That's manipulation. And it's okay to say no to stuff too. You don't have to say yes to stuff all the time. And that was a trap that I fell in, especially very early on with the drama ministry. There was someone that wasn't the most organized. And so whenever there was some type of youth Sunday or children's program, and because the drama ministry was one of the few ministries that was real reliable, it was always asked, can you do this? Can you do that? Can you do this? Can you do that? And, we found ourselves just saying yes all the time. And then there was a point where I just like pumped the brakes and said, no, can't do it. Because it's not fair to the people that's participating. And at that time, there were people that lived in other states that were coming to rehearsals faithfully. So it's not fair to those people to be put on the spot. It wasn't fair to me. And, you're not going to learn to get better with time management and leadership if people just always saying yes. So, when I said no that particular time, it stung, I'm sure. But we all are still living to this day. And, it's no hard feelings because that was many, many years ago. But if I never had said no, I would still be not saying no. So don't get in a point thinking that you have to say yes to every type of request and things that are asked of you. You go to God and you ask Him for clarity and direction. If it's something that you're not real sure of, you ask that the decisions that you are making are pleasing to Him, and to give you the wisdom and the discernment as well. Because a lot of times church people will do stuff just because, they're in church, versus if they was outside the church, they wouldn't do half the stuff they do. And that's just real talk. So let me get back to areas of improvement here. So, plan your story, see if it makes sense. And that calls for you to sit down and put in time. A lot of times people come up with plays at the last minute, say, hey, I wrote a play and I just want to perform. No, it's more to it than that. You need to sit down and actually plan it, from your characters to the scenes to the direction of it. Do it need some music? Is it some special lighting? How is this going to be approached? Whose story are you going to tell? So you want to plan that story so that way it's making sense from beginning to end and it's not losing your audience. Number 2, be strategic. When you are strategic, that cuts out that whole cut and paste kind of characters. And let me say this, I'm hoping in 2019 people really stop these cut and paste characters because it's too much. You know, it's okay to love a particular character, but you don't, when you've been blessed with creativity, you don't have to be carbon copying something else. It's okay to take an idea or a little inspiration or two, but don't just totally just take every single thing and then just put your name on it. No, that's not right. So when you are strategic, think about the audience that the play is going to be presented to, right? If it's a conservative crowd, you know, then you adjust. If it's more of a liberal crowd or, somewhere in between, uh, not just, that, but age group, where it's going to be. Is it mostly men or is it mostly female? Is it for leaders? Is it for support roles? You want to think about all of that in terms of your audience. Also, when you are being strategic in this, think about what are the takeaways. What points, what's the main point you want the audience to get, and what are the sub points in the story to support that main point. So you definitely want to think about that, because as you think about that, that will help you develop the characters. And then third, you have create a character profile. Now this takes time because you have to really get into a character profile. And here's the thing. Movies are, you have the good and that bad character, right? Where you root for the good person and you hope, the bad person get his just reward. In a play, that's not the same thing. So in plays, it's all about expressing viewpoints. There's been a lot of plays where there was a bad character that said something that left me with something to take away and apply, because it was a valid point. So don't look at the messenger, look at the message type of thing when it comes to a play. So you want to get into, what is the character struggling with? What are their fears? What do they want? What motivates them? What um what is their journey? What's their life experience? What's their story? It goes past weight, height, nationality, and the physical things, but you want to dive deeper into that character because it will help you form dialogue. And when you create a character profile, and this was maybe the sixth thing that is a problem with church plays that I've seen, it's just too much dialogue. So any type of script writing requires lines, and actors and actresses in the play are going to have more than enough lines to remember. So those lines need to be in small pieces, but they are building the character, helping building the story, right? So you don't want to give a block a line unless it's a monologue. Those tend to be a little bit longer, and that's fine for that. But even with that, you know, not too wordy, and it's a matter of not just so much dialogue, but saying that right line. Just making every word count. So think of lines like a tweet. Twitter has 140 characters and you have to make the most out of those. You can apply that same thing when you're writing lines for your characters. Make every word count, but strengthen the story as well. Um, Another one, engaging audience. So here are some ways to engage the audience. So again, it depends on what time and all of that is performed. But if you have some free time, you could give a survey for people to complete and give to you for feedback, and that's something that you can apply and put towards the next play. you can have a pamphlet type of information, like a little something on the program, a small write up, nothing real big. Don't, overwhelm people, with that. But, something that gives a synopsis and, different things that's going on that can tie into what the play is going to be about. Also, if there is time, it can be a talk back. Talkbacks are after post play productions where the audience remain and the writer or the director or producer comes out and they talk about things pertaining to that. The audience get to ask questions and express what they thought about certain scenes or certain characters and things and that. And it creates that dialogue, and you have a moderator that's like your buffer. So that's another way to engage. Also, if you're working with teens and millennials in a production, don't just have them there just to have them there, but give them actual, roles in the production. Everybody can't have the acting parts, but it doesn't mean that they can't be the stagehand. It doesn't mean they can't help with the costumes or the props or the lighting or the sound, or someone that knows all the lines and they stand in the particular area, so when someone forgets a line they can say that line, and it helps, keep the, story going forward. So there's many ways of engaging the resources around you in productions. And then you want to expand your creativity. So what I mean by expanding creativity is, if you're in charge of a ministry that don't have a lot of members, or the resources isn't uh, as plentiful, you can collaborate with another organization or another church. Go outside the community, bring people in. Now, if you're in church, you really want to ask your pastor and, get that approved, so that way it cuts the confusion later on. And work with other people. See what they're bringing to the table and be willing and open to learn from them as well. Another way, go and see other performances, and that was something that I did when I was in charge of the drama ministry. I went to go see a lot of plays in different genres, and throughout different theaters, whether it was main stage or black box theaters here in Chicago. And that helped me strengthen as a writer, and not only as a writer, but from other perspectives as well. And go to stage readings. Stage readings are pretty much like a rough draft. They read is, very minimal lighting and a little direction, and it allows the audience to give their thoughts and their viewpoints, and it helps the writer strengthen their story. So go and see how stage readings are done, and that could be something that can help you. Another way to expand on your creativity is stage usage. Not everybody needs to come in from this door or that door. Look at the platform. So with if it's a church, it's usually the pulpit, or some churches have the stage area, or a carved out area for things like that to take place. Depending on the space, figure out the way to use it. So if it's a very deep story, you want to have the stage to where it pulls the audience in, as if the audience is in that living room or wherever the setting takes place. If it's something that is a little less deep, but it still has a message, then the stage could be a different way. So figure out different ways to use the stage. A good way to do that is to watch public speakers. Public speakers uses the stage in different ways. And what I mean by that is, some use a podium, Some walk around the room. Some stand in the middle of the stage with the wireless mic, more TEDx talk. Some do it in a panel way. Some do it as a way to engage the audience. So in terms of plays, different ways you can use the stage: narration. It can open up with a voiceover. It can have someone to read a poem, or it can uh, focus the direction on the upstage instead of a downstage. So figure out ways to use the stage. Last but not least, tell it from a different point of view. And I touched on that earlier, so I don't need to rehash that. But it's okay to tell the same story sometimes, but tell it from a different viewpoint, and that allows the audience to see things in a different way. So I want to know, what are your thoughts about this particular video? If you have any questions or comments, go ahead and write them in the section below, and I will respond and engage with you all as much as I can. And it may take a couple days, but I will respond. If you have questions in terms of whether you are looking to strengthen your drama ministry or seeking some ways to improve, I do offer coaching and consultations. You can email me at ccjenterprises21@gmail.com, and the email is also below in the description area of this video, as well as the website www.ccjenterprise.com. If you are on Facebook, we do have a Facebook page, so you can follow us on there. And if you prefer to just receive alerts on new videos that are uploaded here, you can do that as well, and click on that red subscribe button, and you will receive notifications of when new things come on the channel. Well, thank you for watching. I am Carriece Jefferson, owner and founder of CCJ Enterprise, where I help people build drama ministries. And this is an exciting moment. This is really an interesting moment, because we have so much access to digital and technology that we can reach people in other countries. So this is an amazing time to do things in drama ministry. Once again, thank you for watching. See you next time.